Good morning, everyone. This is Kris again and Hartwell with Inspired Energy. This morning, we're moving on to episode 11. And in episode 11, we're again covering the 9 centers, and we have 3 left. So the 3 that we're doing today are the heart, the sacral, and the G center. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris.
It's getting nippy out there now.
Yes, it is. We're moving into another time of year.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start with the heart this morning, since that's one near and dear to everybody's heart, no pun intended. So what aspects of life is the heart center responsible for? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The heart is one of the energy centers, one of the motors, and it's the motor that has to do with willpower that fuels our ability to take care of our families, our tribes, and our communities. And it has to do with the material way in life. That is, being in the world, having jobs, getting things done, making money.
So that you just sparked something like we were talking about earlier. So it sounds a little different than what people would consider the heart to be. So to me, when I was listening to you describe it, it feels like desire. It's like that passion. It's where that comes from. Is that?
Well, yeah, this is one of the interesting things about human design because it helps us differentiate between these different strands in ourselves. Mm-hmm. Technically, from a human design perspective, desire and need and passion relate to the solar plexus. Willpower is the heart. That is, I can do it, let's do this, that's the energy. When we can tap into willpower for the sake of, fueling whatever we're doing.
So tenacity, it's that part that, you keep going.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right.
And there's only 34% of the population who have the heart defined,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's one of the ones that's least often defined in the population.
So the rest of us are going around and playing, or we're this is the world programming from the world.
Well, this is one of the centers where the not self-programming of the world hits us hardest, because this is the center that relates to self-worth and self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And so the world gives us messages that we should be able to do better, work harder, do this, do that, the other thing. All those should messages are related to the heart. And I mean, how toxic those can be.
Right. So that we're kind of talking about what are the implications if the heart is not defined then. So that's
correct.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be especially prone to not self messages of the world that say that you need to prove yourself, that you need to make promises and keep commitments, that you should be able to do that. And unless you are able to do it, you're not valuable.
Okay. So what happens in the case of the heart when you try to behave as though you do have that willpower?
What happens is that, you get caught up in making promises or making commitments that you actually can't follow through on. Then when you fail at that, then you double down and say, okay, I'll do it the next time. I really will do this. And then it just sets up a vicious cycle where the person is always disappointing themselves and feeling
others, right? If you're committing to things, so then that can then spark that feeling of having been let down by somebody because they promised you that they were going to do this, even though they don't have the willpower to do it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So, but for the person who's doing the promising, it just undermines their self-esteem even more.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say the golden rule is for the undefined heart? What should they do when they have an undefined heart?
The golden rule is that you're not here to prove yourself to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
and that you should not act from an energy of I'm going to prove myself.
Right. So just be and listen to what you
Well,
are
I
being
mean,
told by your intuition.
remember there's 3 other motors, and these are
Mhm.
other things that give us the energy to do things in life. So if we're
Mhm.
following strategy and authority, we will be relating to the things that need to be done in our life in the right way.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's super cool. So let's move on to the sacral. So what aspects of life is the sacral responsible for?
Well, the sacral has to do with vital energy, with sexuality, with perseverance, with the ability to respond in life. So, I mean, it's central because if it is defined, that makes you a generator. So it's very related to type. All generators, 67% of the world, have defined sacrals.
Interesting. So what would be the implications of not being defined in the sacral center?
When you're not defined in the sacral, obviously you're going to be one of the other 3 types. There's only 4. So the other 3 types have no sacral definition, and they are very sensitive to the energy of the world around them. They have a the danger for the non-sacral beings is that they never know when enough is enough. They're overextending themselves energetically.
Oh, they always want more.
Well, they don't want more. They are pressured by all the generators of the world, the sacral definition, to keep going because the sacral center has the energy to persevere.
So even though they're ready for rest, they're going to keep going because the person who is sacrally defined, they're feeding off of that, right?
Correct. Yes, because remember, people who are undefined will amplify the energy of those who are defined.
Interesting. Yeah,
So
like
it
so you
results
don't
in
even know. You don't even know you're pressurizing somebody just by being, right?
right.
Unless
I mean,
you
it's just if you're a generator you don't have to take responsibility for the fact that your auric field is going to be being amplified for the non-defined. It's
right.
but it is important because the sacral people without a sacral center definition don't know what their boundaries are energetically. They constantly run over.
Right. So using you and I as an example,
Yes.
because those are the ones I know best.
Yes.
So then I am extremely defined. So when I'm around people like you who are a projector, who are meant to work with generators, you feel extreme pressure to do something that I've either asked you to do or just by being in my energy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no. I will sense where your energy is at if I'm paying attention, and yeah, and I will, I could work harder than everybody else. I could stay after all the events are done because I'm the only one that's helping you clean everything up.
Right.
Because I feel like I have all this energy and I can help Kris out with that because, I am amplifying your sacral center.
Right. Oh, okay. Interesting. So, what are the implications of being undefined in the sacral center in regards to sexuality, which I'm sure everybody is interested to know?
Those who are undefined sexually have no built-in boundaries and they have no built-in sense of their own sexuality. So sex for somebody who's undefined sex is going to feel different with every different partner they have. So I mean, they're going to have a different experience of themselves. So nothing would be reliable. Nothing would be consistent in their experience of sexuality. Does that make sense?
It does, but then But being with, like, if you're defined sacrally, that doesn't mean that the experience is the same with every person that you're with either.
Right.
Right? So maybe
But
you could just define that a little more, because I'm a little confused.
your sense of yourself in that experience would be have consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have a different partner, and so there's going to be the experience of being with a different partner. But your sense of who you are within that experience is going to be the same, because you have a consistent or expression of your own sexuality. But for the undefined person, it's like they can be expressing themselves sexually in a way that, there's nothing that's natural to their own way of sexual expression, is my understanding of it.
Okay.
And
So
that's why a teenager needs to be coached to be very careful, when it comes to their first sexual experiences.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that goes for anybody, whether you're defined or undefined. You have to enter into it consciously.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, what kind of not self talk arises in relation to the undefined sacral? Like, what kind of things are they saying to themselves?
Well, they're saying things like, "Oh, I can keep going, no problem," or I can get that. I know that I'm doing more than everybody else, but somebody's got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no boundaries around how they give their energy to the world. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's cover our last center, which is the G center.
Yeah.
And what is the G center all about? Because it kind of sounds like, and I'm going to be funny here, sounds like a G spot when you're having an orgasm, but it's not. It has nothing to do with that. So explain what the G center is to us.
Well, the G center is the place where the magnetic monopole resides, which is a magnet that has only one pole, and it holds us to a direction as we move through life. So the G center is about it is about direction, and it's about love. That's what it has to do with. So in some ways, it's the most amazing and unique of the centers, because it has to do with that magnetic monopole, which holds us to the trajectory of our own unfoldment.
Right. So what percentage of the population actually is defined in the G center?
Well, about 57% are defined and 43% aren't.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So how do people who are undefined in the G center experience the world? So if they're undefined, they're not going to feel that same pull, or
Well, no, that pull exists in everyone. So
no,
I
I
mean,
mean
that's
the pull towards whatever it is they're going towards. I said
they're
pull.
going to experience it in a different way, because it is built in. So it's not like that it's not like they won't have any purpose, but they will feel like they don't know what their identity is. They don't know what their role is, and it's because they have no consistent role, no consistent identity. On the surface of things, I mean, your system, when you follow strategy and authority, is still taking you towards your own fulfillment.
Right. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So does being undefined in the G center, what does that mean about direction for your life? Like I'm trying to understand. So if I'm defined, I'm going to know exactly what I'm here to do and where I'm meant to go. But if I'm undefined, I still feel that, but I'm confused by all the different people that I interact with. Like that's the part
Well, it means, in a sense, the G center is a center of beingness. So to be undefined is to be able to experience all the different ways there are of being, because nothing is consistent or pre-chosen for you. So you can be a bit of a chameleon. You can fill many roles.
So you're an experiential being then, like very much so, because you can experience everything. Okay.
Yeah, your playground is in all the different ways there are to feel direction or just feel pure being. And because of that, the undefined G is very sensitive to physical environments.
So, yes, we are.
If you're in the wrong, just the golden rule of the undefined G is if you're in the wrong place, you're with the wrong people. So the best thing to do is to find environments. The undefined G will find environments and places that feel good to them, and they'll return to them again and again. Like, oh, I love going to the library, or I love going to this particular coffee shop, or I love going here.
Yeah, for vacation, this is my favorite spot. Yeah, exactly. So what does the not self dialogue sound like for the undefined G?
Well, it sounds like, who am I? Where am I going to find a sense of self? How can I find what my purpose is? What do I need to do in order to find what my purpose is? All of that kind of thing will put you into your head, because remember, the mind is the not self spokesperson for the not self.
Right. And then you start analyzing, well, I don't know, but that other person knows, and there must be something wrong with me. And then you can enter into all of that kind of dialogue with yourself then, right?
Yes. And there is one other implication that I'd like to point out, because I was reminded of some of the people I knew when I saw this, which is staying in relationships because somehow you get a sense of purpose from the person that you're with.
Oh, right.
Because you're going to be amplifying their G center definition.
Right.
And so you can lose your sense of self, especially, if you're in the wrong relationship and they're not following your own strategy and authority. You're going to be attracted to somebody. An undefined G is going to be attracted to somebody who has a defined G. And then your sense of self is going to be colored by them while you're with them.
Yeah, exactly. So you need a playground like this so you can play with everybody.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to cover before we move on and let everybody know what topic we're covering next week?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and that's how all human design analysts sound, I think, because it all comes back to figure out, find out what your strategy and authority is and follow those. And then these not self themes will start to arise in your consciousness, and you'll be able to recognize them as not self and begin to release them.
Oh, well, thank you again, Wise Wizard, for sharing all of your knowledge and information with us, as always. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. And we hope to continue to see you dropping in and sharing these little tidbits of wisdom with us. Next week, we're going to be covering the inner authority. The three most common are solar plexus, sacral, and splenic. So Hartwell will share some insights with that next week, Wednesday, here at 9 a.m. So please join us. We love you. God bless. And have a wonderful day. Try to stay warm. Bye.